Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you.
Come and talk to me.
Tell me where your mind goes. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you.
Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me.
You ain't gotta hide from me.
No.
I really wanna meet you.
Can I talk to you and talk to me?
I really wanna know you. I really wanna be your.
Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to me.
I really wanna meet you.
Come and talk to me.
I can feel your energy
So deep.
when I talk to you. I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to me. I really wanna know your heart. Your heart. Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Come and tell me what you've been through.
Yeah. Can I talk to you?
I really wanna know you.
Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to me. You can put your trust in me.
I really wanna meet you. Can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? Come and talk to me. I really wanna know you.
I really wanna hear you speak.
Speak to me. Talk to me.
Come and talk to me.
I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. I can feel your energy.
So sweet.
Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to me. I really wanna be your peace.
Your peace.
Your peace.
Hey, thank you for subbing. I appreciate it. I got a cool conversation tonight. It's gonna be about dating, relationships, how I go about it, how my guest goes about it, stuff like that. She's actually a dating coach, so it should be interesting. How'd you find my page? I'm curious because I'm still building it, so I'm curious how people are finding when I'm live and stuff. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Come and talk to me. Come and tell me. I really wanna meet you. Come and tell me. I can feel your energy. Can I talk to you? I really
Oh, you was looking for a live?
come and talk to me.
Well, I'm about to. I'm just waiting for my guest to pull up. But just vibing real quick before she pull up. Actually, before she pull up, I actually wanna address a quick video So that's what I'm gonna do real quick. What up, Jerk? What up, Jerk? Um, yeah, I'm gonna address a video from my guy Truth because I think it's important to address it. So I'm about to put that on the screen, and notifications. Okay, I'm about to put that on the screen for y'all, cause I want to review it. But it's a quick video though. Let's see. One moment. Okay. Pause it. Go back to StreamYard. And let's play this.
Right? I get this question all of the time. How soon should I date when the relationship is over? And I always encourage people to date immediately. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Don't you need time to heal? And I tell people, right? There are three stages to breaking up, right? You detach mentally, you detach emotionally, and your body is the last thing to leave the relationship. So I'll go a little bit deeper, right? You could have fell out of love 3 years ago, right? But your mind was still there, right? So then you mentally detached 6 years ago, right? So now you got 6 years that you've been in a relationship with no heart in it and no mind in it, but on year 9, your body actually walked out the door. So you get people that's like, well, you need to heal. I spent 9 years healing. I was in a relationship, but I was single. And there are people out here that are literally in a relationship right
and
now,
single.
but they literally feel all alone. And then there's this false belief out there, right, that when you heal, that you have to heal alone. And I always say, right, if you were to fall down and break your leg right now, would you go sit in the corner and sit Indian style and try to self-medicate yourself? No, you would go to a hospital. And the reason why you would go to a hospital is because there are experts there to help you heal. There's people there to help you heal. They have get better dogs. They got films that come in. Like, there's literally so many.
And you gotta walk on that broken leg too.
Exactly. But a lot of people they've been taught and conditioned to just sit there.
Isolation.
Yes, and isolation does not fix anything. A lot of times when you isolate yourself, you can get so deep into your thoughts that it actually makes it worse.
Okay, so do you believe in dating with potential? Dating for potential?
I'm 40 years old. If you haven't made it yet, you probably never will. And even if you are, I'm not willing to bet on you at 40. So I would tell anybody that's 35, 40, 45, 50, what are we talking about dating for potential? You have no right dating a 35-year-old rapper that didn't make it yet. You have no right dating a 35-year-old drug dealer that's still...
Because I really wanted to address the part where he said you should be dating immediately. I think that's crazy. I do think that that's not the best advice for most people. I think the idea that everybody checked out of their relationship 9 years ago, or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I just think that's wrong. I think it's not true. Your body is not always the last thing to leave. Sometimes your body is the first thing to leave, right? You can be in a relationship where your body leaves, but you haven't left that person. And I've been in those relationships, and I'm pretty sure people in those relationships with me been in those relationships. So it all depends on the type of breakup and the type of marriage, if we talking about married people. But I think as far as blanket advice, I don't think that was, let me make this bigger. I don't think that's good blanket advice to give people. I think you need to learn yourself after a relationship, because as people we grow, as people we change. And when you're in a relationship, you went in a different person than you left out. So you need to learn who you are now. Hold on, let me change my battery. 1 second.
Deja.
I'll probably move my camera, man. But what was I saying? Yeah, true selling, but especially. Yeah, man. I don't think that was good advice. You need to learn yourself. You need to learn if you were the problem. You need to evaluate. You need to evaluate all of these things before you, well, once you check out of a relationship. Um, you need to, you need to figure out, what you could have done better. You need to figure out what that other individual could have done better. You need to figure out what you're looking for because what you're looking for now might not be what you were looking for then. So, but my guest is here, so we're about to bring her up in a moment. Let me get rid of this off the screen. All right, let me get this off the screen. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, hey. How
How
you
you doing
doing?
tonight?
How you feeling?
I'm not bad, man. Can't complain. Can't complain.
What did I walk into? What was that on the screen? I couldn't see.
While I was waiting for you, I just was reviewing a quick video. I just put up a quick short and I gave my opinion on it. It was just about dating and breakups and how to, how fast to get back into dating after a breakup. So I just was kind of doing that while I
Oh,
waited.
oh, how fast to get back into dating. That's a good one. I see a lot of controversy about that. What was your take on that?
I think you should move slow. I think most people don't know who they are. I think most people didn't know who they were when they got into a relationship, and I think most people don't know who they are when they get out, and it's different from the person you were when you got into it because the experience in that person that you were just with changed you. Experience everything changed you. You might have had a kid, all these different types of things. So a lot of people didn't know what was good for them when they got into a relationship. When it comes to picking a partner, they didn't know, what they liked and stuff like that. We just end up in relationships, and I think if you jump right back out there, you can make the exact same mistake. And I think that's what most people do is make the exact same mistakes. So, I mean, what do you think?
I I do agree to an extent. However, I will say I think, there are people that will, they'll do the work, they'll heal, they'll, go to therapy and they'll reflect on the relationship and things like that. However, I think some people will get stuck in just the theorizing of things because I think
Hmm.
there's, on one hand you can of course say like, oh, okay, I could have did this better, I could have showed up in the relationship different. However, it's not going to be until you really are engaged with someone again, actually dating or in the relationship, in the dynamic again, where you're really going to be tested. Because I think
That's true.
theory and actually, doing something different in real time, like that's where I think the gap is for people. So I do agree, like there's a level of like self-awareness and, work that people need to do to understand themselves better. But also I think you can only heal relationship dynamics in relationships. That's how you test the growth, I think.
So I agree with that, but I don't think everybody has the awareness to do that, right? Like
Oh yeah.
I think that I do. I think I have the awareness to, I
Hmm.
process things in real time. But I think therapy in general, which I think most people need, is because
Hmm.
people can't process on their own,
Yeah.
or they struggle processing on their own.
Right.
So me being introspective, in the moment I can be dealing with my kids and I can ask myself, later on, like, did I go too hard? Did I do this
Yeah.
wrong? Did I do that wrong? A lot of people can't do that. So what do you think is a good time limit then? If you could give like a blanket time limit of what works or what you would advise most people?
See, that's the thing. Like, I'm very, I, don't, I just, I feel like I live life in the gray.
Okay.
Because I think there's context, there's nuance, there's like layers to it that matter and will make a difference in what I would recommend for a person. Like you
Well,
said,
how about
like
this?
I'm
How
like
about
you.
this?
And
How about
okay.
this, right? Because there is certain blanket advice that if you were a doctor, for example, right, you would
Hmm.
just you would give to everybody, even though if you have a client that comes in, oh, disconnected. Hold on one second. Wait for our internet to come back on. Sorry, you disconnected.
No, no, there we go.
All right, perfect. Um, okay, so what I was saying was, oh, I don't see you. That's weird. Is it my StreamYard maybe?
You don't see me?
Now I see you. Okay, now I see you.
Oh.
Maybe it's the StreamYard. I don't know. But what I was saying was, as a doctor, you'll probably give blanket advice to everybody, right? Even though when you might have a certain client, you might give them something that's a little bit different. For
Hmm.
example, they say blanket advice is you probably should steer away from beating your kids, right? However, I do think that certain people can use that as a tool responsibly. So if we're just giving everybody advice, right, for the best bet, because we can't give everybody tailored advice right now. If you could just give advice, a blanket advice, what would you say it is?
My response would be less about the timing and more about asking yourself questions as far as can you take accountability? And when I say take accountability, I'm more so talking about not just, okay, 3 months later, I'm in therapy talking about it. I mean, when, let's say, your partner brings something up to you, is that a space where it can be a safe space where you can actually honor what they're bringing up to you?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not like in the moment, because I think that's also a skill that not everybody has, but it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
take you 6 months, a year for you to actually be like, okay, you know what? Maybe there's some truth in this, even if it's not. You may not agree with the entirety of what they're bringing up to you, but you can
Mm.
actually reflect on it and
Okay.
go to whomever, whether you got a mentor, friends you look up to, therapy, whatever it looks like for you. So that's the first thing is accountability. Two, can you communicate when you are triggered, activated, when you've had a bad day? Like, can you still show up in that relationship? Because I think that's where a disconnect happens for a lot of people. So if you can
Yeah.
communicate, if you can receive feedback, essentially, then I think those are two big factors. And
Mm-hmm.
not, I guess, probably just not taking everything personally. Because a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times that, the things that come up in relationships, I think a lot of people, let's say your partner brings up something, maybe it was, something they saw on Instagram or something. And a lot of
Yeah.
people would take like, oh, they're asking me a question about like adding a third party into a relationship or something. And people
Yeah.
sometimes will run off with that and thinking like that has something to do with their dynamic. It has something to do against them. Oh, our relationship is bad, or there's issues. There's, they take it personal. So I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
third thing.
Yeah. I know. At least for me, right, and I consider myself to be on the spectrum as far as closer to people who have very self-aware. And I know for me, if I were to separate from my fiance, I wouldn't get back out into dating for, I would say, I would like to say a year, right? For me personally, I think it's like you gotta disconnect from that individual, you know? I don't know what healing means to other people, but you just spent a certain amount of time with somebody. I just feel like I just need to, I just need to gradually, um, I need to gradually get back to, center myself in a way, you know. I don't know. I just feel like if I jump right back into dating, um, it just feels like it would be problematic to me instead of like being good for me. I don't know. What do you think?
I
And
mean,
I
I
guess
think it's
everybody
good.
is different too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, I'm like the same way. It took me some time, but I do think there's a difference with you saying, like, okay, I think I would take a good year because you're being like intentional about it versus what I think a lot of people are doing. And they're just kind of like reactive to maybe the way that the dynamic ended, or, maybe they're not even in agreement, with it ending. So people will get back out there and they're just all over the place. They're not really being intentional with dating. They're really just kind of like running away from really facing, what it is they need to process as far as the relationship goes. So
That,
I do think that plays a part too. But
hmm.
yeah, absolutely taking time to really just not only reflect, but like even honor the relationship. Because I think when,
Yeah.
we have a breakup, divorce, whatever that looks like, of course our brain just naturally goes to like what went wrong. Like a lot, most people we're thinking about, oh well, this person was no, thank goodness it ended, right? Like we're rationalizing
Yeah.
what, what and why and how and all of the things. So I think with that, like that, I think that how people process after and what that looks like. If you're including other
Hmm.
people, there's no problem in that. I don't, I personally don't think to each his own. However, if
Hmm.
we're just doing it just to distract ourselves from feeling the feelings and from facing, maybe what we did wrong or what we could have done better, I think that's where the problems come in.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. If I would probably just tell most people to take some time. You know, take some time for yourself. And like you said, when you said honor the relationship, I thought that was a good point. You know, um, yeah, and I guess it's something that I'll process more too. But I definitely know that I feel like taking time is even whether it's 2 months, whether it's 3 months, whether it's
Hmm.
you know, um, I definitely think taking some time is important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, you definitely hear about people being back out there like, the next week, and there's definitely no judgment, but not everybody has, in that amount of time, there's not a lot of processing that I think most people will do in that time frame. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you how about you? Would you like to date somebody who was fresh out of a relationship, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, honestly, so that used to be a question that I actually would ask people some probably a couple years ago. When was your last relationship and why, like why did it end? I stopped asking that because I started realizing I mean, a lot of people, they could say like, oh, I've been single for 2, 3 years. That don't mean they self-aware. That don't mean they actually have, because when the next question I ask of like, what did you learn about the relationship? Because I stopped
Hmm.
asking like, why did it end? Because a lot of people will, they'll talk about the other person versus, themselves. So I asked
Yeah.
them like, what did they learn about themselves? And that answer would give me a lot more data than them telling me how much time they've been single.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people, they'll either say something along the lines of, well, I learned that I don't need to put up with this no more, or, like they'll again kind of project about the other person versus like what shifted in them, what they learned about themselves, what they want to change within themselves that they can control. And then there's
Yeah.
people that, will actually say, I really learned like I didn't communicate as well as I thought, that I was you know, allowed work to kind of get in the way of our relationship. Like, if you can answer a question and you can bring up what you did and truly what you learned and what you want to do different moving forward, to me, that says a whole lot more than, yeah, I've been, single for a year.
Okay. Do you think questions like that, you don't think those are first date questions, do you? What do you think about that?
What, the question I
Like,
asked?
yeah, like if you were on a first date, how do you feel about asking somebody those type of questions in terms of when was your last how long ago was your last relationship, or what did you learn from it? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do think there's a balance. Some people will go into like first dates and they turn it into like an interview. Do you want more kids? What did you learn from your last relationship? When did it end? All these things versus like, okay, let me, we can ask some questions like that to get a little deep, but also balance it with like, we're just being present and having a good time and connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people, become very just like question, 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 heavy, 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 like delve into the past, like it can easily create this like disconnection when really first dates are supposed to see if we want a second one, and that includes like the actual connection, the chemistry that we have, the vibe, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Do you find that
and then
people
I think context of the date
or
matters too, right? Like where you are, what you're doing.
yeah, do you find
You
that
think it
people
shouldn't be asked
oh
on first dates?
do I think it shouldn't be asked?
Hmm.
I actually didn't give it too much thought, but I thought it would be a good thing to think about. Um,
Hmm.
should that be asked on the first date? I think it depends on within context. I know now that I think about it, I probably would ask that person if they were comfortable answering it, because some people,
Hmm.
you know, they take it a little bit personal. But I think it could be I think it could be a good question. You know, I know for me, I wouldn't mind it because of the type of person that I am. But others, some people may not take it may take it a little bit more personal. And also, the reason I think it's a good question is because you get to see how that person thinks and if they're a thinker or not. You know,
Absolutely.
because a lot
Yeah.
of people they might get tripped up on the question. You know, and be
Hmm.
like and not be able to answer it. You know, like what did I learn? Like they can tell you what did that other person do wrong. But as far as like what did I learn, you know, from that relationship is a little bit you'll at least for me it'll tell me a lot about the type of thinker you are and if I'm even interested in going further with you because you may not intellectually, you know, be the type of person that I'm into, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same way. Like, I think a big thing is people asking questions that keep people in autopilot, like the same questions that you just hear, like, it's just like I imagine, like, when you go to the store and you walking past somebody and you smile and you're like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, hey, yeah, how you doing? Right. And if you were to actually answer that, they were already like halfway down the aisle. It's like people we don't even like really be present in conversations, and I think that's how a lot of like dating experiences go for people. So
Hmm.
I'm really like I studied linguistics. I'm like a nerd, so I'm really big on like language and how asking certain things like put people in a different state of mind, and like you said, like you can get so much data from that, seeing how people think authentically versus like more rehearsed questions, because asking, well, what happened in your last relationship, why did it end, people have been asked that like 25, 50, 11 times.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have a response that's not, I'm not gonna say it's not genuine, but it's
Hmm.
probably been said so many times, again, just autopilot. So I think that's
Yeah.
really important in dating, to really get creative with asking questions, because you can actually get way more information than I think people realize with just shifting,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
How do you feel about like dating today? So I just saw a video and it was like it was a singles meetup and it was nothing
mhm.
but women there. Are you familiar with that? Like what's going on with that? You know, singles
The
meetups with
like
like
I don't
only
know if
women.
that's a brand, but I mean in general, like those like dating, yeah, dating
Yeah.
game nights and events. Yeah, I've
Why
been
do
to
you
a couple.
why do you think they fill with women and the men are like not interested in being there?
Well, I think there's a combination. One, I think they cater it to women. I don't think they're catering it to men. And their interests, like where they would naturally go. I think a lot of men are already, I mean, just because how the dating pool is, I think there's a lot of, people say there's pee in the dating pool. And, just like there's just this negative connotation associated with dating. So I think it takes it's going to take more than just some cute events that again are tailored to women for men to come out to potentially be rejected, potentially be, like not, find their type or whatever that looks like. I think that's the biggest thing. But also, I mean, the men that I've like talked to, and I'd love to hear your opinion too, it just isn't that attractive because a lot of times those events they're very surface level and it's very like networky or I mean I'll say awkward but I guess that could be in any situation but it's like a lot of times it's not really built for substance and I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are looking for like more ways to actually connect versus like I think going to an event that feels a little like gimmicky.
I think so I got to give you the answer I give you has to be a little bit nuanced because I'm different. I think I'm different from other guys. I think that if I was in one of those, I think you, nothing is surface level unless you make it. So if I'm there and I'm talking to a woman, it's not about to be surface level to me because I don't do surface level, right? Like I'm not good at small talk. I hate small talk. I can't do it. I'm not skilled at it. But I can have a real conversation, right? So I can't imagine if I'm having a conversation with somebody that it would be surface level. But I think part of the reason men aren't going is because maybe the marketing, and also, I mean, guys like me don't really have to go to places like that. Like I probably prefer to meet women out at like Whole Foods and stuff like that. It's like, like
Natural, yeah.
versus kind of yeah, feeling like I have to go to an event, to meet a woman. I mean, would I go to one for fun? Maybe for fun if I was single, like just be like, oh, reason to get out. But I don't. The idea of it being, something that I don't even know how men get on those email lists, to get notified by stuff like that. Or,
I don't know if they
but
do. I know I went to one and they were pulling men from the like from like the restaurant and like the bar. They were giving out like free tickets. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think they probably just need to be marketed different. They probably need a bit more of a um bit more of a male dominant team running it, and maybe
Hmm.
those guys could get the message across to the other guys. But I think they're probably typically either ran by women or they're ran by men who are women centered when it comes to their platforms. Like I feel like if I ran one, it would be all women there because my platform is all women, mostly 75, 80% women. So it would be difficult for me to get the guys there with my platform. So
Hmm.
that might be part of the issue also,
Yeah. Yeah, that
you
does.
know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that is a common thing is like wanting to meet women in just in the wild, if you will, right? Like you said, just out and about. But then also what I see is like men that even say that they still aren't, even though they meet a lot of women, they're not actually having like really, they wouldn't say that their dating experiences are great. They'll have like a lot of, if it gets to first dates, or, they'll have first dates and it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. So I mean, I guess it depends what your pain point is, whether you meet women and then even if you meet them, you know, how well you can connect or
Another thing might be men preferring to be online. You know, men preferring to get their women online because it's a thing now, and
Yeah.
it's a lot easier of a rejection online than than not online. Um, your camera going off, but yeah, like it's as far as the rejection aspect, it's a lot easier online. So I can imagine that. Plus, maybe like guys are going into that propaganda of we seeing a lot of girls online saying that they don't like men approaching them. Um,
Yeah.
so maybe that's kind of doing the number on them too. Because even though you at a dating event, you still got to approach.
True.
Yeah. So maybe that might play a part. Mm. Yeah, cameras. Well, maybe your internet, but you kind of
My
there it
tech just
goes.
don't like me today. I don't know what's going on.
That's better now.
Okay. But yeah, no, I agree. I think I've talked to a lot of men that, I mean, good looking and everything, that you wouldn't think, have issues connecting with women, and they do not approach. They
Mm.
don't, there's, I don't know, again, the fear of rejection. And, um, I think society too has played a part in this about the whole Me Too movement. Women, like you said, they be doing the most. And so I
Yeah.
think all of that has played a part in why, some men are just very resistant to dating, which I think, I don't know if like even Bumble, their whole thing is that the women have to message first,
Yeah.
which I find that a lot of men like that because it kind of takes the, some of the weight off.
Yeah. That's actually a good idea because I'm pretty sure women get bombarded by men in like on apps like that. So it probably makes a lot more sense for them to do it that way.
Yeah. But I think, in one of your posts too, I recall you talking about kind of like, well, actually, in a few posts, you're talking about like leadership. And I think that's a major thing too, because leadership shows up in every aspect of dating, every, well, stage of dating, um, from being on the apps, messaging and all of that. So even I've seen where some, sometimes like even if a woman like initiates the conversation that's had even after, I think people still struggle, men and women, in communication as far as like leading the conversation, like
Yeah.
letting it go somewhere. And like you said, a lot of people like engage in like small talk. And I'm like you, like I don't really like small talk either. Like, what are we doing? If we're not
Hmm.
talking about, something of substance. But I think a lot of people like really just don't know how to really connect even sometimes online. I think
Yeah.
getting, and I think that leads to like burnout with the apps, why a lot of people will get off because they're like, oh, like nothing, I'm not getting results, right? Like I'm not getting any momentum. But at the same
Yeah.
time, the whole point of being on the apps is to get off the apps and get, in person to connect and date and engage and have a good time. But for some reason, we have a lot of like conversations fizzling out after a few messages when really it really started off like really um promising.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think men are struggling with anything like when it comes to dating? And for the most part, like what do you notice that they can be doing better that they might not do? Be doing so well on. And I guess that can be in dating or relationships. Like what do you notice?
I think the well, this, I mean, this is kind of like something that it's like a feedback cycle. But as far as like really communicating what they're feeling, like being vulnerable,
Hmm.
expressing themselves. However, most of the time, like 95% of the men that I've worked with and observed, it's like a lot of times it's because they were burned by, exes and women in their lives where their
Hmm.
vulnerability was like weaponized in the past. So they're very resistant to kind of being open in that way. However, when you're not vulnerable in a relationship, as I'm sure you know, like, I mean, how deep of a connection can you actually have? And women that, do that they weaponize it and, bring stuff back up like later after saying like, I forgive you. And that was me. Like I was that woman that did that. Like I would say I'm good, like we're fine. And then when it was convenient, I would just bring it back up, throw it in his face, just all kinds of things to really just kind of break a man down, from like wanting to be open. And at the same time, I would say, like, why aren't you opening up to me? Why aren't you, telling me more?
Can you give me an example of like something that a guy would tell someone, a woman, that she would bring back up? That's common.
So, yeah, like, let me think of. I'm trying to think of what the context was in this situation, what the scenario was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but well, I'll just think of, my previous history with, I know before, like this was with my ex-husband, and I had brought up something that he had said that I just got offended. Like I thought he was disrespecting me. And
Yeah.
I'm
Could you tell us the nature of it? Was it like a critique of you, or
so I'll give you a better um I'll give you a better example.
okay?
I had, yeah, so with my ex-husband, we had we had went somewhere, like a date or something like that. And I had asked him a question, and it was a question asking like what it was it about what I think I asked him what I could do better in our relationship.
Okay.
And so, and this was like, I mean, this was, what is this, 2026? So this was like 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and I asked him, yeah, what I could do better in our relationship. So his response, he talked about like with my communication. And then he mentioned something like something I had previously said, but when he said it, it was, and again, so I'm linguistics, but it was how I guess the way he said it to me,
Okay.
it, I'm a horrible storyteller, I'm sorry. I'm
That
like,
was fun.
I'm like trying to recall because I'm like, okay, this was a long time ago, and I've never really like verbalized this like specific scenario. So I'm like thinking about it in my head. Sorry. Um, and then the ADHD. Hold
No, it's
on. What's
fun.
the
So,
question?
so you were saying that that he asked you, you asked him what you could do better in a relationship, right? And he pointed
Mm-hmm.
out your communication could be better. And was there something
Mm-hmm.
else that he pointed out, or was it just the communication?
No, there was something else, but then I lost my train of thought because I forgot what the
Okay.
original question was.
I guess what it
That's
was about isn't. I guess what it was about isn't too important as much as how did you respond? Do you remember that?
well, yeah. I mean, I got butt hurt and pretty much shut down during the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the date. Um,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
he said something to me, and I took it as disrespectful, and that's like the gist of it. So I
Yeah.
took it like personally, but it was something in addition to like the communication stuff. But
Yeah.
afterwards, he, on the way home, like he kind of like reiterated his point of view. Like he expressed it, I guess, a lot better. And
Yeah.
in that moment, I'm like, okay, not gonna mess up the rest of the night. We're cool. I'm
Mhm.
good. However, because I just wasn't very self-reflective, and I had some toxic dynamics at the time. When it
Mhm.
came time to another, like conflict that we had that was completely unrelated, I brought that up as far as him disrespecting me. And that being just an
Yeah.
example of him not, you know, being what I needed him to be and being disrespectful to me, which essentially I was trying to use that as an excuse for how I was showing up, or rather,
Yeah.
not showing up.
Is this the first time you let him know that it was disrespectful, or was he able? Or did y'all he attempt to? Did y'all attempt to talk about that before?
Well,
You
no, at
know.
the time, I didn't even have the capacity truly to even express that it was
Okay.
the disrespect. Like, this is more learning it in
Gotcha.
hindsight,
Mhm.
after the relationship, honestly, after we had got divorced and I did, work on myself. But initially I was very like hot, and then I just shut
Yeah.
down. Like I didn't have the language then.
Okay. Cause I think this is a good conversation as far as like men being vulnerable, having or expressing how they feel, like in regards to how are you showing up in a relationship and him critiquing you.
Mhm.
I think this is I think both parties need to be accountable here. And what I mean by that is, yes, a lot of women can take offense to critiques.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as a man, I think that most men want to be leaders in relationships. As a man, you have to essentially teach, teach her how, or show her that mirror, right? Of you can't, when I tell you something and I express myself to you, you can't respond like this, right? We
Mhm.
can't respond like that to each other, you know? I think it's important for him to not waver when it comes to that. Give grace and all that type of stuff, but that's something that needs to be understood, you know? And if he don't, if he doesn't make sure that happens, then who is going to make sure it happens? That she hears you, that she doesn't take it as an attack and stuff like that. Because if
Yeah.
you didn't get her being that self-aware, you know, the only person that's going to fix it is you gonna have to fix it, if that makes sense. You're gonna have to work on that. So
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's, definitely one of the shifts. And again, for me, it was after, the relationship had ended that I got to even take to even see that, like to get the mirror, like you said, some people get the mirror in the relationship, but they still ain't looking, you know?
yeah.
Um, and then some people, they get the mirror, but they can see it in the relationship and they have the benefit of being able to like work through it with their partner. And then some
Hmm.
people, yeah, it's afterwards when it's like, dang, okay. Because meanwhile, I'm thinking he was the problem and I was, you know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe he could have said things better. However, the whole thing about being in a partnership is it's a partnership. When somebody brings
Yeah.
something up, it's not about me against you. It's us against the problem,
Yeah.
us against the circumstance. We're a team
Hmm.
versus like thinking, okay, what you're saying is against me.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of women, and men too, right? Like we a lot of times can't sit with that discomfort of taking accountability to say like, oh, this, especially when we're emotionally triggered,
Yeah.
we don't know what to do with that other than project it onto someone else.
Hmm. How do you feel about leadership in general when it comes to men in relationships? Like, do you think most men have the capacity, or like that's the role that most men should be playing? What do you think about that?
I think a lot of men do have the capacity. Now, whether they've tapped into it or not is another story. Um, but I also think that leadership again is so, because we hear a lot about it and how men should be showing up in relationships and all of these things. But I do think there's ways that leadership shows up that I think a lot of us are missing. You know, like I said, even in, you know, not just like the surface level stuff, but also in, you know, communication as far as like in text messages, leadership shows up. You being able to like be like decisive, you know, as a man. And I think that's like one big, probably very common through line that I've noticed with, you know, a lot of the people that I've worked with is, and it's not necessarily like when they aren't decisive, I think they do it some with the intention that they're trying to be open. They're trying to not come off as controlling. They're trying to like show that they can, you know, kind of like, oh, we can come up with this together versus what a lot of women talk about online, right? Of, oh, men just want to control you and, you know, all of the things. However, or I think a woman that has, let's say, just, you know, more than the average level of self awareness, and I think just like understanding that sometimes that can come off as a lack of leadership. Trying to be open and just leave it, you know, like, okay, I'm just going to give you the options. What do you want to do? Versus like, hey, let's do, you know, I have this plan for, we could either do this and this, but I'm also open to like, you know, suggestions if you had an idea of somewhere that you wanted to go versus, you know, what you want to do, where you want to go. I mean, and it goes to like even just the smallest things like that. I think leadership isn't always the, you know, the big, grand, bold things. What do you think?
Um, so I be talking to a lot of guys online. Like I be doing like a lot of YouTube stuff, like just in open panels, and I get to observe and study men. And I'm questioning now if I think most men do have the capacity. I think first and foremost, are you smart enough, right? A lot of guys aren't, from what I'm finding out, just aren't, from at least the ones I'm experiencing, they're not that smart. And if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, and if you're going to lead them, it would make sense that you're a better decision maker than that person. And I find that it's very possible women find themselves in relationships with guys who aren't better decision makers than them. So it probably ends up being difficult to hand over the reins. Now, at the same time, there are a lot of women who just aren't, who are just difficult, right? And it's just their current state is that they're in. So it could be difficult. But as far as like the conversation about the men, I think it's very possible that a lot of guys, like, we may be putting a little much on their plate. I don't know. And it's just from on the guy's plate, as far as like them to be a leader and the type of leader. At least when I talk about being a leader, might be putting a lot on these guys' plate that maybe they not really here for that. You know, like what if being a leader is not something that everybody can just do? What if it's a skill? What if it's beyond being a skill? Beyond being a skill, like what if there's just some things that you need to be a decision maker and problem solver?
Well, that's the thing. I think skills can be built. So I do understand your sentiment as far as like, okay, wondering if most men have the capacity. I do think it's in them, but I do also think the example may not have been shown, right? Like how I think leadership looked in our parents, grandparents' relationships looks a lot different than what leadership is today. And a lot of that is because the women that you date today are different than the old school relationships we think about, you know? The old school love we
Yeah.
be talking about like in R&B videos and shit. Like it is not like that today, you know? So I do think it's there, but if you've never had the example, if you've not seen it in real time, and maybe except, you know, on some Instagram reels, right? And a lot of people think that's staged anyway, then
Yeah.
no wonder they're not showing it. And I do think that's a big part of it, just like with, you know, when we talk about like emotional intelligence. I mean, we used to tell men, like, a lot of women are out here saying, like, men are too emotional. But then they're also, on the other hand, saying, you know, they're not opening up enough. It's like,
Mm.
I think the dynamics are like confusing for a lot of men.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's not there. They just haven't had to exercise the skill to, you know, be
Yeah.
in environments that have activated it for them to be able to build on it.
Yeah. I think that might be one of the issues, right? Um, because if you find yourself confused at something like that, um, like I don't think it should be that confusing, right? And maybe I'm being unfair, right? Because I have a better understanding of these things, right? Um, but I understand the difference between emotional intelligence and being emotional, right? Because I didn't have nobody had to tell me. I just figured it out. It just, like to me, emotional intelligence is just control. Is being able to express yourself in a way,
Mm.
you know, in a positive way of, that hurt me. I didn't like it when you did that. That's
Yeah.
emotional intelligence to me versus just being emotional to me is different to me. A lot of women don't have emotional intelligence. A lot of women can't control how they respond,
Yeah.
when it comes to an emotion that they're feeling, like regulated, you know? And I think that if you are going to be a leader, it's a lot of you can't use that confused excuse all the time because that's a lot of the guys say, I'm confused. You're telling me this. You're doing. It's like the confused thing. But I don't know. I just think as a leader, you got to be able to problem solve. You got to be able to figure out, like, you got to be able to figure these things out. Because she might, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't think most women know the answers to these questions, but I don't think they're supposed to. You know, you don't know what you don't know what you're feeling right now. You don't know why you're reacting this way. But I'm the leader. I do, right? Because I'm the leader for a reason. I don't know.
I think they should
Um,
though. But I do think, you know, even with that, if, you know, at least I think there's a lot of women that will, you know, I think there's a lot of talk about what leadership is, like you said, and how it shows up. However, I mean, the biggest thing you could tell is how a person leads themselves. Like you said, how you can regulate. If you can't, you know, let's say I'm seeing you talk about like your ex or something at work, right? Something that's could be typically triggering to you. If you cannot express yourself and not, you know, get, not to say like you're not going to be emotional, like get emotional, right? But if you can't react to something, respond to something or someone without, you know, cussing somebody out, just, you know, just because you can't like deal with, okay, sitting with, let me think about this before I respond, before I, obviously, because there's a ripple effect, there's
mhm.
gonna be a response to this. And especially like I think with men, like black men specifically, that's a whole nother dynamic. But I think, you know,
Mhm.
how if a man can't do that within himself and how he's showing up, which I think that's what women aren't looking at. They're looking at how a man shows up for them. And that's great. But at the same time, we also know most people aren't showing all of them true selves, right? Like in, you know, those initial like dating experiences. So
Yeah.
I think we're sometimes looking at the wrong information because he could be reactive to other people, like maybe, you know, with his friends, or you see him in family dynamics, right? Like with his mom or siblings. But then a lot of women aren't looking at that. They're just paying attention to, oh, he treats me a certain way. He shows up for me a certain
Yeah.
way. And that's
Mm.
great. But if his baseline is not grounded, then the longevity is more than likely not going to be there.
Mm. That's that's fair. That's fair. I guess I'll look at it like what do I want to say? I don't want to compare people to dogs at all, but I'm just give you an example. Um, when we look at dogs and how they respond to certain things, a lot of people might think it's one thing, right? But then you might get a dog expert who says that dog isn't just aggressive, right? The dog is anxious or it's insecure, and that's why it's responding this way. Um, I think as a leader, I have to be able to identify those things, or at least like kind of had a thought process to be like, okay, this person is reacting this way. Why are they reacting this way? Because I don't necessarily expect them to always have that answer, but I know that it's my job to study it and figure out, what is this? And I guess that's why I just think that I'm good at it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it sounds like you're leading also with like curiosity versus, again, kind of taking it personally where you would maybe become more reactive. Not saying that you would, but
Hmm.
just
I
in a
think you
general
have
sense.
to. I think you have to. I think that's the problem with many people is they don't lead with curiosity because you need to
Yeah.
understand something to fix something. You know, you need you can't just go in like, all right, I'll learn it later. Like, no, you need to understand something to fix something. And a lot of times, that's really all that's missing is leading with curiosity. I I don't end up in all the arguments that other people end up in because I lead with curiosity. You know,
Yeah.
um, I don't have people feeling like they're being misrepresented or mischaracterized because I'm asking you those questions. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Versus like assuming. And so how has your leadership like changed? I know you've been with your fiance for some years now. How has that changed like when you first dated to like now?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say it's my leadership that changed, which obviously it has changed if I've changed. Um, but it's more so me. I'm not the same person that I was when I met her because I was young. I was 26, 27, I think, something like that. So I was young. So I've grown so much, and she's grown so much. Like we're two different people. Um, if I was that person, if I was the same person that I was, we might not still be together. We might have not made it this far. If she was the same person she was, we might have not made it this far. We both have grown, and I think it's like that with a lot of relationships. When you go from being young to actually being a mature adult, I was on that tail end of, young guy to like grown man. You know,
Yeah.
um, so my leadership definitely has grown, but I know from the beginning, and I don't want to say that she brought it out of me, but that was probably just where I was headed. I made sure that when we communicated, I made sure that I got to the bottom of things. You know, I made sure that I asked the right questions from the beginning. I made sure that I was clear, she was clear, and those type of things. But I mean, it's definitely my leadership definitely has grown as I became more and more of a wiser, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think, you have a higher level of self reflection, self awareness, emotional intelligence. So I think, it's there's a big gap between, I think, people that are at that level of, how you show up, how you think in the moment when things are happening, whether it's conflict between you and, her, or, even just maybe a circumstance. What would you
Yeah.
say, like, what advice would you give to someone that maybe doesn't have that ability or hasn't, built that skill to lead with curiosity versus like that reactivity?
Um, I guess the first thing is, dang, it's so interesting. It's so interesting because the answer to that is to be more curious. you know, like stop thinking that you know everything. Stop. Wait for details. Ask for details. Details are important. Is important. Whether we're looking at a a criminal case, or we're just having a conversation with somebody. Try your best to understand everything about what they think. You know, before you try to like go to judge, because that's how you be wrong. I don't like being wrong. I really don't. Which is why I'm not bullish on a lot of, this is my stance, right? I got some things I got stances on, but those are things that I process thoroughly. It's a lot of things. A lot of times we just hearing something for the first time and we just completely rejecting it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a bad practice.
I think that's definitely true. Just doing it and being curious. However, I think that's easier said than done for a lot of people. And I will say, because again, I was that woman that was completely reactive. And then I didn't even know how to sit in my own reactivity. So even after being reactive, I would just project it onto him and turn it around on what he did or wasn't doing versus being like, you know what, okay, let me take a moment because maybe there's something I could fix here. Um, and that didn't happen until I got a coach myself. I got a dating coach, and it was doing the work with her that I actually saw like, oh, I've been the problem. I've been the person that, like, it wasn't really about them. It wasn't about them, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think just seeing like, okay, where did I like mess up? Where did I not show up in the way that I like actually want to show up? I think a lot of us have this picture of how we want to show up in relationships, and a lot of us just aren't making the mark. So I think doing that work, I was able to like reflect and take the accountability and start actually shifting like my relationship, shifting how I showed up. And in that process, I think I was able to like really develop like the ability to see I can obviously feel some type of way about something, but also
Yeah.
there may be these other things that could be true too. So I could have taken this as disrespect, but is there a possibility that it had actually nothing to do with disrespect or whatever it is? So I think having someone, again, whether it's a mentor, a coach, whatever that looks like, a therapist, to kind of like
Yeah.
show you potential other things that maybe sometimes in the moment we're like kind of blind to.
Okay. We got a good question right here. Somebody asked, can too much curiosity hinder leadership? I
Hmm.
think so. It's possible, right? It's possible if you can't make a decision, um, if you can't identify once you have all the necessary information, then I think that it can probably hinder it, right? You need to know, when is this information enough for me to go and make a decision, versus
Absolutely.
gaining too much context, possibly, you
Hmm.
know?
I think that's like a skill of like discernment because
Hmm.
a lot of people, especially for people that have had like past like toxic relationships or just obviously like just unsuccessful relationships, right? Like ones that they would say maybe had failed. I think
Yeah.
sometimes it could be a little difficult in certain things. Like for me, I had saw, okay, I had really been just kind of emotionally volatile, right? In my like past dynamics in dating. And so when it came to other things, like as I was starting to like work on it and like be more aware of it, I would notice that I would lead with curiosity because I'm like, okay, maybe it's not the thing that we would normally like just jump to, like whatever conclusion. But then I went to the other dynamic rather than just being immediately reactive. I was like being too um graceful because I
Hmm.
was kind of I was trying to in my head balance and not be reactive, but then I was kind of self-abandoning in the process by staying way longer, not saying something because I thought, okay, well, I don't want to be, I don't want to show up in the way that I was in the past. So let me sit back
Yeah.
and take a seat. But then that led to just me being on the other end of the spectrum and it still being an unhealthy dynamic. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
I might have told you this before, but of course, I think that before you get into a relationship, I think you need to know everything that you are looking for from somebody, but you also need to know everything that you're looking to give somebody. I think
Mm,
those two are both extremely important. And sometimes people got the answer, some of the answers to the first one. But a lot of times they don't have the answers and they never thought about the second one. And I know for me, it was extremely important that I knew what I wanted to give a woman and what all that I offered a woman, because I thought that was valuable, what I could offer a woman. And I thought that was extremely important. And I think it's extremely important that when you're getting with somebody, that they know what they want to offer a man, because maybe I don't want maybe I don't want you to give me something that you don't want to give, right? Or maybe you're not aware of what I'd like you to give. So I think those are very important. You know, I knew that I was a leader. I knew that I wanted to be a provider. I knew that I was good at listening. You know, I knew that what I was willing to take control of and take the brunt of. You know, I knew where I was going, so I thought that was important. But I think women need the same thing. They need to know, what do you want to what do you want to give a man? Like, what are the things that you want to give that you're like, yo, I know a man will love this, and I want him to love this, and I offer all of these wonderful things, and I know that a guy's going to appreciate this in the future. I don't know, what do you think
mm.
about that?
No, I agree. And I think again, that's like a level of assessment. Yeah, like I don't think most people do, to be able to say, yeah, like how do I show up? And there's that question always popping around about like, what do you bring to the table type of energy. And like I just think a lot of people ask questions that they don't know how to answer themselves. And that was a lesson I had to learn because I think a lot of us, again, we want to know things, but then we have not like really sat with how we would respond, um, in kind. So I think being able to say like what I think if people did that like assessment to understand what they would bring to a relationship, I think we would probably have like a lot less toxic dynamics because I think a lot of things stem from people just not knowing their worth, not knowing where they're going, not knowing who they are, and they put up with a lot more than they really should be. They're doing a lot more than they should be. It's just a mess because people don't really have that clarity.
Absolutely. Um, how do you feel about uh, how do you feel? What do you think is the biggest disconnect between current men and women? Like, what do you think is the biggest issue? You might have some women online saying, "I'm not going 50-50 with no man," right? So let's say that's one of the things that could be an answer. Maybe the guys are like, "Oh, we're not doing this," and the women like, "You're not doing that." What do you think is the biggest disconnect?
I think the biggest disconnect is communication
Hmm.
because, yes, you have those women saying that. And usually that's coming from this place of dealing with men that not only were they like, okay, 50-50, but it was probably not just about the 50-50. It was probably because they were with someone that maybe wasn't a leader, that they had to like end up doing more of the work, whether it was emotionally, whether it was, I mean, it could have been financially, like in other dynamics. And I think that like the money thing is just the trigger. Like that's the trigger word that I think that just gets lost in translation. So I really think at the end of the day, it's about the communication of what you are wanting and expecting in a relationship. And I don't think it's necessarily about the 50-50, because there's a lot of women that will do 50-50. There's a lot of women that's doing more than 50.
Hmm.
However, I think it's about really being honest and clear on what type of dynamic we want. And this goes beyond finances. What does this
Hmm.
look like as far as making decisions in the relationship? What does this look like as far as, I mean, on the day to day? Not only that, like when things happen in life, a lot of people have kids now, dynamics like that. Well, what's going to happen when, your ex, when we have to like do something with the ex, right? Like maybe birthday parties and stuff. Like there's so many different dynamics that I
Hmm.
think women have like dealt with, and they're just like chalking it all up to like, oh, the 50-50 is the thing. But I don't
Yeah.
think it's the 50-50. I think it's just not being clear on the other aspects of the relationship, that they just probably they got burnt out. They were doing the most. And that really
Yeah.
is less about the man, and it was more about what they put up with.
Mm, that's fair. One thing that I think is important to talk about. I think dating people with kids, right? And
Mhm.
and when is that a good thing? When is that a bad thing? Like, what are some things that you can notice in a relationship to say that, what, maybe I shouldn't be with this individual? I know, at least for me, um, I think that from my perspective, if you're going to be with somebody with kids, you need to understand that, you know what, this is the type of relation. This is I'm speaking on this, but this is from my perspective and the type of relationship that I want to be in, right?
Mhm.
I think that everything that you come with um, is now shared, right? So if you come with any type of baggage, any type of problems, or anything like that, like, I want to take that on with you. I want that to be split between us because I don't want you to go through anything on your own, no matter what that is. So when it comes to having children, okay, now I have children, you know. I think that's first. That's initially a good mindset to go into that with. But also, I think that you need to be able to work collaboratively with that individual. So that person needs to empower you that your opinion matters and things like that. And a lot of people kind of try to keep them separate. Oh, this is my kids. This is my partner. You know, I don't
Yeah.
think at least based on the type of relationship that I view as, positive relationship, I don't think that's the correct way to go about it. So I made a post before where I told women, and it's not just for women. I think I probably told men and women, if that person doesn't want to involve you into the decision making process when it came to kids, then I think that's a red flag. So what do you think about that? Of course, not if you just met, right? But if that person hasn't invited
Yeah.
you in to share a life together, I think, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
red flag to me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, even to add to that, I think another red flag on behalf of the other party, I think if they're not actively trying to establish like a relationship outside of like when you guys are all together, that's a red flag too. Because it shouldn't be just like when we're all together and that's, because then I'm here, right? Like I'm kind of like a buffer. If we are actually moving towards the goal is to be like married or, to build a life together, then you should have a relationship outside of me with my child.
Hmm.
So I do think it's on both parts, because later down the road, when it comes time to, the thing about it is like if you get divorced and you had kids together, right? Like you got divorced from that person, but they're still going to be around. You're still going to have to interact. And sometimes what I've seen is like just kind of like a lot of like drama and just toxicity, because it was never really established as far as that like integration. So then maybe if, the partner, like the woman has an opinion, and then it's an issue because that was never offered, that invitation was never offered by him. And now you've got the ex like causing a ruckus, right? Like there's just
Yeah.
so many things that can just happen. So I do think, yes, that is one of the things that if you are like moving in together, because I think, like what I talk about is there should be a checks and balances at each stage of the relationship. So before you should have a certain amount of data before you even get into the relationship with the person, before you
Yeah.
move in, before you, really talk about like marriage, right? And that is definitely one of those things that you want to talk about before like moving in together. Because I think that's if that hasn't been established, if you're not clear that they're actually wanting a relationship, that you can actually see how your child and this person can coexist, then I mean that's I ain't gonna say it's a setup for failure, but it's not a setup for success.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. I think it's extremely important that that you guys be aligned. I know early on, and when when I was in my relationship, my my girl would feel uncomfortable whenever my children's mom would come over to pick them up, and I
Mm,
would ask her why why do you feel uncomfortable, and she just didn't feel at home. She felt like she was interrupting something, and I had to kind of empower her
mm,
and tell her like, listen, when when she comes to pick up the kid, you make yourself known. You know, this is your space. This is not her space, right? So I don't want you to feel like you have to go upstairs, which is what she wanted to do. She wanted to retreat. Let me just let y'all have it. I'm like, no, that's not. That's not what that is. I want you to feel comfortable here. You are the woman of this house, and yeah, like, be here.
absolutely.
Don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful because I mean I've seen a lot of dynamics where it's just completely separate. It's like, okay, well, I make decisions about this kid and I only communicate, there is no like you're not involved in that. And sometimes it's because they don't want the issue with the ex, and then sometimes it's just I think that's just, how they're just showing up. But you being able to create that safety for her, I think that's really powerful. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people don't have the expectation for, or even the capacity to think to do that.
I think it's a part of leadership.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely a part of leadership. So when a man, especially when a man has other women in his life, which I guess to a degree would be the mother of his kids. If he doesn't know how to empower you or to kind of make make you feel comfortable, I think
Hmm.
that's an issue. And a lot of guys struggle with that. A lot of
Hmm.
guys struggle with empowering their women the right way when it comes to that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was working with a gentleman, and it wasn't the ex, it was with his mom and the lack of boundaries. And he didn't even like realize that the dynamic that he had created. And for him it was a challenge because the difference between, and I think, it's like black people, we came from you respect us in the household, right? And what that looks like. And that dynamic of like, okay, I'm respecting my mom, but I also have, I'm supposed to be showing up as the head in this like relationship, the lead in this relationship. And how do I like balance both, And it was, a big challenge for him because he was just like, I didn't know what to do. But he also didn't even initially realize that it was essentially like a leadership thing, and that he had the ability to fix the dynamic between, I won't say fix, but create a little bit smoother of a dynamic between his like mom and his who ended up being his fiance. But I think it shows up like that for a lot of men where it's just, again, where do you get that example of how to navigate something like that?
Yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
know some people do, come up with that without the example. However, that is still an outlier. That's not like the average person's experience.
Yeah. But then it's like you try to. So from one perspective, right? I think that I'm doing things the right way. However, that's just my perspective. I could be doing it completely wrong. But
Mhm.
one of the things I find is that you get to these places and guys disagree with you. They say, "Oh no, that's not the way to do it," or that don't matter, stuff like that, right? Um, and they're not looking at the results of the individual. I think that when I deal with women in general, I have really good results, right? I don't, even when I'm talking on a panel with like women on it, I don't
Mhm.
have the reactions from the women that the other guys get, and it's not because of the way I look; it's because of the way I communicate, right? Communicate different. Um, so they don't even look at the responses that I'm getting, from people, or the response that I get from my woman. Like I don't have any issues with, the women I have kids with, you know, like so I think that's a big part of it is at least being able to identify like, oh, is this person, having results with the way that they communicate or whatever, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know. And I mean, just going back to like what we were talking about earlier about that curiosity, that shows up in the same way in literally every relationship dynamic, business, familial, romantic, all of the, types of relationships that we have. And it's the same skill.
Yeah.
It's just different contexts we're putting it in. And that's, I think, the power of like when you are able to like, shift something like that in your, relationship and dating, you're able to also like change dynamics in other spaces too. Like it's a mirror. I think dating just becomes the mirror to all of the other things, all of the other areas that we got to work on.
Hmm.
So,
It's something I think men don't understand. I think it's something that women don't understand about women too. But I've observed this. I think that women respond a lot differently to their environment than I think men do. Like I
mhm.
think I think stress probably has a bigger impact on a woman than it does a man. Like I think the way a woman feels can literally make her sick. I don't know what your perspective is on that, but it can make her physically sick if she feels a certain way. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The body keeps a
Mm,
score.
mm,
It's a
yeah,
powerful book. But
isn't.
yeah, that's why, the statistics show like a lot of like women having way more, immune disorders and things like that. And what I've noticed is because I've like worked with women where they've had these like diagnoses for years. And with working together for a little bit of time and working through some things, them communicating and actually like expressing themselves, them creating boundaries, like showing up completely in a different way, they were able to like not have a lot of the symptoms they had been experiencing for years,
Yeah,
all because they were like now able to like process and respond to things versus just either being reactive or just like holding it in. But I mean, women in general are usually more prone to being emotionally reactive, way more in dynamics and responding to environments in more. It's coming I'm thinking about like the like I think we talk a lot about like toxic masculinity. I don't think we talk about like the toxic like femininity
hmm,
aspect, but I think that becomes like a result of women not doing that, like not working through that.
yeah. Um, what's I about to say? Um, I think I was about to go deeper into the women not yeah, the feelings, right?
Hmm.
I think the way a woman feels is extremely powerful to her, and we don't understand that because we not built the same, men and women. Um, but and I like to, one of the examples I like to think about is kids, right? When we were kids, the experience we were having was completely different than the experience that an adult was having, right? In the same place, at the same time, the same moment, but we experienced it completely differently. So when I think about, taking my kids to places, um, I'm like, yo, y'all probably having such a different experience than I am right now. Like this whole universe is probably so much bigger to you than it is to me right now, because I have a certain amount of knowledge and stuff like that. But we're at the same place, but we're experiencing it way completely different, And I think
Yeah.
when it comes to women in a way that they feel, they experience that differently. You might experience the same, you might go through the same thing and experience it differently than the person across from you. And I find that women's feelings are so powerful outside of them getting sick, is they can literally think that what they feel is what happened versus what actually happened, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's just their feelings are that powerful to them. And I think that's why it's good to communicate and to be a leader, because to kind of prevent that from happening, being able to communicate, I think it helps with that.
I mean, I will say, I think it may not even always be the fact that you could prevent it from happening, but if it does happen, not like escalating, to a point of where you gotta like repair, right? Because it's just, I'm not gonna say like that it's not fixable, but to the point where it like creates this disconnect. But I do think, I know you talk about like being able to kind of know your woman so well and being able to kind of try to prevent things and all of that. But I do think it's also the responsibility of the woman to be in tune with herself. Like, I do think that yes, men should lead with, how you've explained it, but also a woman should, because we do feel so deeply and we do hold things a lot, but we also are very in tune with a lot of things, right? With like our environments and stuff. But however, a lot of women haven't tapped into it fully because um they're still kind of like in their heads. They're not really in their like bodies. And I think it is the responsibility of the woman to be able to like name what she's feeling, expressing it, not just, like just blowing shit up whenever something happens or whenever she gets offended. You know, I think it's a balancing act. But
Yeah.
not that she's going to be perfect. In those times that she's not able to respond in a productive way, then I think that's where like, the man can come in and be like, "Hey, let's work this out. Let's take a moment, because I don't think how we were just showing up is really how we want to show up, right? Like this is not in alignment, you know."
Absolutely. Um, I have a I have a unique position when it comes to like loving everything about your woman. A lot of guys, and I guess people don't got to go as deep as me when it come to that, right? Cause I make it a point to love everything about my woman, down to the way that she smell, down to everything. Um, but I do think it would be helpful for a lot of guys, at least, for example, right? Let's say you're a guy who likes women with big butts, but the woman that you end up with doesn't have a huge butt. I think that it would benefit you in your relationship if you loved her butt, the one that she has, right? You know, and I think that you can. I don't want to say hypnotize yourself, right? But you can like this thing that you thought that you may not. You know, you liked other things better. I think you can like kind of like tell yourself that over time. What do you think about that?
As far, so when you say, because I remember seeing the post, or I think it was a YouTube video that you did,
Yeah.
and you're saying with the context of doing it for the purpose of.
If I'm going to be in a relationship with you, and I'm choosing you for life, essentially,
Mhm.
I think that it doesn't benefit me to have things physically about you that I don't like, that are that are you know, stuck on you. I don't think it benefits anybody. I think it makes a lot more sense for you to love everything about her, especially as a leader. I don't know. Um, so I guess that's kind of like the perspective that I'm coming from. If she had a little butt, then love it, love her little butt. You know,
Yeah.
because I think if you
Yeah.
don't, it can cause problems in the future.
That's true. That's true. I mean, and to me, I always think like again, everything is like a reflection because we have parts of ourselves, things that we don't, that may not be our favorites about ourselves. And I think if you can't learn to love your partner and appreciate them, not saying like, oh, her little butt got to become your favorite thing about her, right?
Hmm.
However, just learning to see like, I love all of the parts of her. Like there's
Hmm.
no, and what you're saying as far as like it causing potential problems in the future. Because if you're just thinking, oh, I love everything about her, but her little butt, then maybe when a woman comes around, I don't know, when y'all are going through some hard times and she got a big old butt, like that 80-20 type of thing could be showing up. So I do think, a lot of the work that I end up doing with my clients is mindset work. And I think a lot of the stuff that we make problems, they're very neutral. It's not really the circumstance, it's not the thing, it's our thoughts about the thing.
Hmm. Exactly.
So I think, huh?
No, I said exactly.
Yeah, so I think us shifting, like you said, like just kind of doing the work to like think about, okay, why I love this about her. I love her. So, whatever you got to do to kind of talk yourself into being more in love with the person that you're choosing, because that can
Hmm.
only benefit the dynamic.
Yeah. What was I about to say? I know another thing is I think leadership is delegation, right? It's a big part of leadership is delegating. And I know I told my woman, uh, especially like when it comes to like the kids and stuff like that, I told her that I tried to empower her when it comes to leading, because of course I'm the leader of the house. I'm like, you can consider me like CEO, right? Um, but I made sure to tell her like, listen, everything that all of this is yours, right? Like this house, everything I give, like I'll do all of this for you, right? And from there, with you essentially all of this being yours, it's like, okay, now what type of leader do you want to be, right? Like what type of leader do you want to be in the house? Now that you know that you have this power, you own these things. This is all yours. I do it all for you, right? Um, I think it's an important question to ask it to people, to everybody. Like, what type of leader do you want to be? I asked that to my homies who got platforms, and essentially their word is law to some people. You know, you can influence people. Like, what type of leader do you want to be? So I think delegation is extremely important, especially because your woman will also lead in that relationship to when it comes to certain things.
Mhm.
Maybe it's the kids, maybe it's where y'all invest your money at. I don't know, but I think it's important to delegate and empower.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's another dynamic that and skill that I think a lot of people haven't learned in the context of a relationship. You know, um, there was something you said that triggered a thought,
Mm.
but I think I lost it.
It could
It
have
might come back.
been all of this being hers, right? And then it's like, okay, what type of leader do you want to be? Since you
Hmm.
essentially you got a kingdom, right? Like this is yours. You have responsibility. They say with great power comes great responsibility. Um, you know, I think that was the gist of what I was saying. But then I went to even having a platform and influence.
Hmm.
Uh, from there, having a platform and influence, and those people you have influence. So it's like, what type of leader do you want to be as far as over there? Um, like, do you want to
Oh,
be? Oh, you got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for helping me out there. Yeah, no, it triggered my thought about like, because as an executive coach too, like working with a lot of leaders who make decisions for like a big group of people. They have a team. Um, One of the biggest things like I've noticed too is, and I don't know if you've ever like worked somewhere before where they come down with new SOPs or something like that, that it's like, who's making up these rules? It's not the people that obviously have done this job before.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it probably maybe makes the job harder or creates more resistance in some way, makes a process longer. And I think a lot of people don't think about that as well. They being able to tap into the people that are affected. Like, so not only delegating, but having conversations, leading with curiosity. If this was to happen, like looking at all the parties, what's your job? Asking questions. I think a leader will get curious about the people that are going to be affected. They're going to, you know, not just, okay, I'm looking at my picture, but I understand that there's also these other angles, there's these other vantage points that I may
Mm-hmm.
not have fully tapped into, and being able to connect with the people that also are impacted.
Yeah. How do you feel about um, tone when it comes to, because there's a certain group of people who thinks that tone isn't as important as the information.
Mm.
I don't agree with them. I think that tone tone is extremely powerful. Tone can change the meaning of a word. So,
Absolutely.
what do you think about that?
No, I agree. Like I said, I'm really into like language and communication and behavior, and I think that more times than not, the tone can be more important than the actual context of what somebody is saying. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it can definitely change the meaning, the energy behind something, right? Like the way somebody says your name, if they have, a higher pitch at the end, if they go like 2 octaves higher, that sounds a lot different than, if they just had this like monotone and very like flat. So in relationships, I think a lot of us weren't taught how, and I'm thinking of conflict, not even just like everyday conversation, but more specifically with conflict when we're activated
Yeah.
and we have all that energy, in our bodies that we have not like articulated or expressed or even maybe have named, and tone that, being the thing that we're leading with. So even if in our head we're thinking, you know, we might be saying one thing, but our tone, our energy is like amplifying the tone, and it's
Yeah.
completely received in a different way from the other people, the other party or people. And I think that creates sometimes like this disconnect. So I think it's like really important to um, be able to like learn how to regulate yourself and ground, because you can be completely pissed off and still have like the same tone that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because like how I shared my experience of being very like emotionally reactive with, exes and things like that. Like, I mean, I used to argue and yell, and I tell people like when I was in high school, you ever heard of Flavor Flav?
Mm-hmm.
You ever watch his show
Yeah.
in New York?
I remember her.
New York. So I had that nickname. I was so loud and just so I mean, I was just out there. Like, I honestly, it just stemmed from trauma of like not feeling heard. So I felt like I needed to be loud. But I was just doing the most. And I mean, it took some time to realize like this is not effective. It's not getting me what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be heard. And so I had to change that. But, just a lot of, I think people just lead with not being able to. Are you having an echo? Is that me?
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Do you hear it?
Oh,
Cause I can
y'all
mute.
hear an echo? Because I felt like I was hearing like feedback of myself.
It's possible, but I mute it. So. It won't. It shouldn't do it now. I can't hear you. You say something else. No, I can't hear you. Mm-mm. Maybe. Hold on, let me try. I try. Say something. Hmm. I say something else.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Maybe it's an internet issue. Maybe it was breaking up a little bit.
It went to like a different speaker. That's why I
Ah,
was hearing it on my phone. It went to a different like audio. That was so weird. Sorry.
okay.
You can hear me fine now?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. And I was talking and I don't remember what I was saying. So
Oh, um, what were you just
it's a thing
talking
for me, as you
about?
can see.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to think. What were you just talking about? We went
Hmm.
from leadership to, huh? That's interesting because I don't remember necessarily either.
Unknown caller.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
So, what's something that you would, because I think it's not always, it's not just men showing up in a certain way too, but it's also like how they're vetting, choosing, discerning, women and dating.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say? I know, it's been years since you were in that space, but like, what would you tell someone as far as like what to look for, as far as, in a woman that they're potentially thinking of being with long term?
It depends. It depends on how much of my personal opinion do you want interjected in this, in my personal worldview, and what I personally want from a woman.
Whatever feels like the most authentic response.
Okay, because I can
I'm
tell you
sure
what I'm
people
looking
people get
for.
value from it.
Yeah, because I can tell you what I look for versus what I can give you blanket advice that's might work for most people. Um,
Well, I think your opinion would be good because I think that's what I notice when I like talk to a lot of people. It's like people don't understand, I think, the way when you're like very self-aware, your thinking process, I think that could be a value in itself. So
okay. What I think men should be looking for. I like. Yeah, I'll just tell you what I like. How about that? I like a I like soft women personally. Like
mhm.
women with good energy. Um, because as a man who considers himself a leader, and I'm much more like, it's like I'm born and I'm not born at the same time. But I'm very like chill for the most part. Like
Mhm.
I don't need nothing for Valentine's Day. Don't need nothing for Father's Day. Right? I'm very I'm very chill. So I think women should be like a ball of sunshine. That's what I personally like. If I like women who are like balls of sunshine. Um, so her temperament, right? I think I like women who I look for a woman who can work. You can work well with, right? Because if you're going to
Mhm.
be a leader, you do. If you could pick somebody who um you kind of like mesh with, I think that's decent. Like somebody who you actually like being around, and somebody who likes being around you. It should be organic. It should be natural. I think. Um, understand. Try to find somebody who's compatible. Not just somebody who you might be sexually compatible with or something like that, but like try to find somebody who sees the world similarly to the way that you see the world. You know, what do you believe in gender roles? Does she believe in gender roles? Do y'all think that do y'all align there? And I think that'll like shrink a lot of friction that comes with other relationships. Is do y'all see the world similarly? Of course, it might be certain things that as a leader, she might end up taking up because of you. But in general, I think finding somebody who has a similar viewpoints, um, I think that could work wonders. What else can I think? If I could think about something else, um, and also I think when it comes to when you truly believe in leadership, like truly believe in like leading as a man, your answers can be a bit boring, right? Because everything comes back to the leader. You know, like everything comes back to like that you know, that person for the most part. Of course, other people have responsibilities also, but those are the responsibilities that you give them, right? That's the delegation.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I think the last part was the most important as far as finding somebody who sees the world as similarly as possible to you, and then y'all can kind of like. I think life will be a lot smoother for y'all, especially when it comes to kids, raising children. Um, you know, family, like family life, as far as like your mom, her mom, dad, stuff like that. I think that's really important.
When you say your mom, their mom, like in what way you mean?
So I know for me, I'm very, I wouldn't say I'm disconnected, but I'm not as in tune with my family as maybe some other people. Um, you know, I'm more in tune with the family that I build versus, you know, because you might have some people who thinks that the family outside of the one that you're building is
Mhm.
extremely important. You know, they want to be, they maybe they feel a certain amount of, they still feel a certain amount of that they need to perform for their parents possibly, right? Like, oh, I need to get married by this age because my dad or my mom, you know. So I think like the way that you view that could be important, you know. Like I don't want to be around somebody who's performing for their parents all the time. Cause I'm a grown ass man, right?
Yeah.
And we go over here, we got it. They looking at us like kids. No, I'm a grown man. So I think you know if that's an example. I think that makes sense.
Mhm. So is that more about like their like maybe their dynamic with their parents, not necessarily like just being close with that part of the family, not the one you built, but
Well, it could be both because that's just one example, right? But there's another example where you feel like you. I know people who feel like they have to show up for everything as far as the family is concerned. Whereas things that I feel like, oh, you know, it's not that deep. You don't got to go there, right? And they feel like they have an obligation to be somewhere or to do something, like do everything. And it's kind of like maybe they stressing themselves out about it because it's
mm-hmm.
something they really don't want to do. So I think that's another example, you know? And maybe that's not what you want. Maybe, you know, what I'm on is like, yo, they be all right, you know? So,
Yeah, I think those are like even conversations that, I think a lot of us are having that, should be a part of the vetting process, because family dynamics are so important, as far as how are you going to show up when, yeah, like let's say we already had, something planned, but then, maybe some family stuff or, something maybe you forgot. And then it's like, how are you going to navigate that? Is this family that you built a priority, or are you going to, just kind of like go into this dynamic and meanwhile, like, complain and talk about how you don't want to go, but like now you're, just kind of like people pleasing at this point, because that can really, I've seen that like kill connections, and depending on who it is, whether it's the man or the woman, there's looking at that as a lack of leadership and, showing up, um, confidently, like being grounded in who you are and expressing what you want versus, that dynamic of just like trying to get that approval or validation. And even on the woman's part, it really just kind of comes down to those like I think unhealed dynamics of, that childhood, it all stems from the childhood, right? So I think that's like exploring that and observing too, because people can obviously like say what a dynamic with their family is, but seeing it in real time, going to events, seeing what it looks like when, they're in disagreements with family, or when
Yeah.
family expresses disappointment. Like, who are you the closest to in your family? What does that relationship look like? All of those things. Like, a lot of us aren't actually vetting in that way. And I think a lot of us are even asking, we'll ask questions. Like, I've heard people ask, what is your relationship with, like, with your parents? And I've heard people ask that in the context, trying to, like, they'll base the answer off of, oh, is this person like a family person or not? But again, I just think that's not the right question, because people could say, maybe I'm not that close with my family. But what does that tell you? Does that mean that they're not going to be, good in a family dynamic that maybe you guys create? No, because that family member could be toxic as hell. Like, people, they could be creating space finally, boundaries. And I think we're doing a lot of like questioning when we should be doing more observing.
Yeah, that's valid. That's fair.
How did your fiance vet you?
How did she vet me?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't. She got lucky. If I'm being honest, you know,
Okay.
she just thought I was handsome. She liked my beard. You
Is
know,
that what she would say?
yeah. She thought I was handsome. She liked my beard. I took her on a date, and from there was history, right? But yeah, she would say that. She would say that. But I do think you know, I do think that I think we both lucky. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I definitely think because I do think that my understanding of things in the way that I lead in a graceful way, I do think it's not the most common. That I have like the balance that I do have, and that I listen to her the way that I listen to her, and I understand these concepts of, you know, of course I'm the leader, so ultimately at the end of the day, I make final decisions. However, I'm uber interested in your opinion and what you think, and then even though I don't have to, I want to know what you think about everything before I make a decision, because
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be with you if I thought you was stupid. Um, I want somebody who can be another version of me, to somebody that I can trust. Because you can't trust a lot of people, especially when it comes to business or decision making. So I want somebody who can be another version of me, who can have my second set of eyes. Um, so yeah, and I'm experiencing a lot of the other guys these days when it comes to like talking to people. So I'm like, yeah, nah, you might have got a little, because I could have been like one of these niggas, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't want that to sound arrogant. I just think it's true.
Yeah, I'm tracking. So, would you say how you show up in relationships, like how does that differ, or even how it's similar to like what you saw like growing up, like in your house or with like other family members?
I'm a complete 360 from
Mm.
everybody. Um, I'm almost like an alien when you think about it. I take nothing from what I grew up around. Nothing from my father's relationship, which he had limited relationships. Um, I take I took nothing from my mom and her marriages. All the way that I think, the way I communicate, all of this is just things that resonated with me as I got older and I started to experience different people and learn different things.
Mhm.
You know, so like none of the examples growing up am I like those at all. My mom actually didn't think that I would be who I am today at all. She didn't think that. My mom, I had to go to military school out of to finish high school pretty much. I went to military school because I was more of like a kid who wasn't doing any work. So she didn't know where I was headed. you know, she had no idea where I was headed. Um, but it worked out. I went to military school and I became my platoon leader. So to her, she thinking she got a kid that needs so much work. You sent me to military school. You hear I came back and I'm like, oh, he's the leader. So you know, um, I definitely think I didn't take much from growing up.
Mm. Well, it sounds like, I mean, if anything, the value was like it sending you on the trajectory of leading to where you are now, even if it wasn't necessarily the example itself that you took. The value of what you don't want to be or how you want to show up.
I don't even think it was that though. I didn't see anything that I was like, I don't want to be this. You know.
Mm.
I learned that more. Like I think my becoming a man, really like before let's say before 21 I didn't know nothing, and then from 21 to 26 I learned some things, and then from 26 to 33 I'm a completely different person. I think that's like my arc of all the knowledge that I acquired, I would say. But from before then, like nothing is still here from that, you know. But I think a lot of guys had that experience. Like you become a man, like not like when you're 18. You become that transition of becoming a man, like really happens sometime in your 20s, between your 20s and 30s.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, living through some things. I know for me, definitely saw a lot of what I didn't want. Um, as far as like how to be in a relationship, I did not want either one of my parents' relationships, theirs together or with other people. As far as like communicating, like my mom was very uh, reactive, and she was like, I'm a withdrawal. I can, I'm gonna throw out the D word, and we could get divorced, right? Like very confrontational and just not a healthy dynamic at all. And like my dad, he didn't have many relationships either. Like the ones he had were very short lived. They would be like really, I feel like kind of, I ain't gonna say hot and heavy, but they would like jump to like, I don't know, like we're engaged like pretty quickly. But then I'd be like, oh, how's she doing? And, like, y'all not together no more. Like, and that happened like several times. And I'm like, but my dad was very, very controlling, very controlling. He was a great dad. But I mean, I remember one time it was like, and he's prior military. And this was, well, hell, I'm prior military too. And I remember he would like tell me like I needed to fold my underwear. And I'm like, like, why does this matter? Like he was just so like controlling. And I'm like, well, no wonder, women ain't staying around because that's not leadership, right? Like that's, this is a dictatorship, and this doesn't feel good for women. Um,
yeah,
and so I didn't have examples of what I saw. A lot of relationships. Like I had cousins that would talk about men just paying their bills and all these things. Like, and I'm like, I just felt completely, how you say like alien? Like I get that. Like I was like, I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. However, I did grow up to emulate, a lot of some of the dynamics. I think, sometimes we grow up and we think, I want to not be like this. And then we end up being like it in the
being like that.
process of
Yeah.
trying to avoid it. Um, and until I did the work. So it's kind of funny with thinking back to all of my relationships where I was just doing the most and I was like demasculated. I would just like really like not let the man be the man, not let him lead. Um, like I said, just being very, oh, you know, be in this relationship with me, like open up to me, but then not being the safe space for him to open up. I didn't have any of the basic foundational skills of having a healthy relationship. So it's interesting to think about like my journey with, that led me to here with like really wanting to like connect and support men in this space because, and I was like a cancer. So people always talked about because I was like very emotional. And to now like having gone through, executive coaching, so learning a lot about like leadership, going through like business programs, again, the leadership and structure of like organizations and things like that, to the military, again, leadership and crisis work, managing my emotions, military, managing under like stressful, environments, like all of these things, um, leading to being able to like regulate and navigate things in a very completely dynamic than what I grew up in and how I initially operated. And I really want to support other people because I think other people have the capacity too. They just have not tapped into that space to actually reflect because they keep like, being in these cycles in these relationships that either aren't serving them and they're just keeping them like reactive. So I
That
really
make a lot of
believe in the
sense.
power of having a space. Um, and I'm pro therapy. I mean, that's my background is like in like clinical mental health counseling. However, I do know that there's a lot of people that can be in therapy for years and years and they can articulate their trigger, their traumas and all the things and what they need to do. And they still not like actually disrupting the cycle and doing something different when the situation presents itself again. So I do think, and that's again why I shifted. I ended up leaving my program to go into executive coaching because I saw like the power of coaching. And I think, coaching can, it leads with curiosity, right? Like you're just
Yeah,
asking them questions and helping them explore in ways that, again, I think just a lot of people just never had the space to. And what I've,
yeah,
talked with a lot of men in their past relationships from they weren't able to, they were just valued for what they did, how they, provided in the relationship and what they gave to the woman or the family versus them
yeah,
actually feeling like I'm an individual, I am, you know, a valuable aspect of this, this dynamic versus just being the giver, the provider, the leader, and doing everything for everyone else.
yeah. Mm,
Yeah,
that's what's up.
therapization, absolutely.
I one thing I don't know if like I'll ever coach anybody when it comes to like relationships and stuff like that. But I do think that I have a unique perspective when it comes to communication. Um, you know, I do think that I can benefit people in that way. But I know one day I don't have really a desire to be a coach, but I do like to help people. So it's like, you know,
I mean, you probably already are in a capacity, but yeah, I mean, either way, you're helping people.
yeah,
But coaching has been a major part of my journey, which, I mean, once I got my first coach, like I invest probably more than like most people's like mortgage payments on like personal development and growth. Like that's like my
wow,
top core value. So whether it's for my business, my just like my own mindset or, dating or whatever, like I've invested in all kinds of things. Um, and, again, like being able to see the shift in that. Cause like I tell people, like when I got my dating coach, I was like, ooh, I'm about to meet my husband, like that was the mindset. And it wasn't, it was obviously like looking for validation and, it wasn't about
yeah,
the man. It was about having the title. It was about being on Instagram and posting up, I was married now and less about, like you said, like people aren't thinking about what am I bringing into the relationship? How am I showing up? How can I be of value? I'm just thinking about what I can take. And when I'm not receiving it, then I'm act out and I'm gonna show up, in a certain kind of way. So like having that space to like really just sit with myself and be told like not in a way that was like demeaning, but in a curious way, being led to see like, oh, this is something that like really has been a reflection of just me and how I'm showing up. And, just even learning about like core values and what that is and how I can live in alignment with it in different ways. Like all of those things, just the power of the ripple effect of having that
Mm.
space. Because it was through my dating coach that I actually was able to heal like my relationship with my mother and even with my daughter. And it helped me in my business. Like it helped
Mm-hmm.
so many ways. So like what she says as far as like it just being a mirror, like dating, I was like, this shit's like for real. And I'm like, more people need to experience this. Even if not in the, aspect of like a dating coach, right? Like because I started out coaching and I was coaching women. And I'm not a health coach, I'm not a weight loss coach. I wasn't a business coach at that time, but all of those things benefited when I was working with those women. And I just think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't have or like either access or, even think about it. Because coaching is newer. I think, now it's a little saturated, but it's newer in like more recent years as far as,
Mm-hmm.
coaching, like really being more, you're seeing it more online, but I
Yeah.
truly believe in it. So, but I completely respect, not necessarily putting that title there. Because either way, you doing stuff like this, I think is a value to, put perspective out there.
Mm-hmm.
And people so stuck in their heads, they don't really hear other people's perspectives, or at least ones that are, healthy.
Yeah. I think you probably are a really good coach. Cause I hear a lot of people. I'm gonna give you an example. Um, I've heard Cheyenne Bryant talk before, right?
Hmm.
And if I'm being honest, I think a lot of the things that I've heard, may have sounded good to people, but I heard flaws in them. And when I hear you talk, and it's just my personal opinion, I could be stupid, right? I could know nothing. But when I hear that you talk, it seems like you get a lot of things, right? It's not like a lot of, things that might sound amazing, if you're spoken poetically or like a pastor, right? But I think that you could really benefit a lot of people.
I appreciate that. I, you know, I mean, my journey, I'm still on the journey. I definitely am not perfect, but I do think, all of my background, along with just like my desire to support, I mean, that's what I lead with because I could definitely be wrong, and I tell people I'm not the coach for everybody. Like, I'm a cousin coach. I keep it real, but I'm also like very grounded. I'm very like, I think there's a time and a place for everything to be kind of like, all right, now you knew what you was doing
Yeah,
versus like, well, what do you think about this? You know? And I just think being objective, which I think a lot of people don't have that skill to be
yeah,
in real time, outside of theory, I really believe that I've really strengthened that skill. Like I can be in the most, like some really heavy crisis, people tell me all kinds of things and still be like, the calm in the storm and not
yeah,
judge. And when I say not judge, because I think honestly that's bullshit. I think everybody judges. We all judge, but I think
yeah,
there's a difference between judging and passing judgment. You know, expressing judgment to someone. But I think we all judge because we live through our own, experiences. But that is a skill that I think really. I think when I realized that, because I remember a moment like I was like, I'm on like dating apps and stuff.
okay,
And I'm like swiping, and I just remember thinking, like, there would just be moments I'm like, man, I really wish, like, not that I want to swipe right on this man because, like, I'm interested, but I would really love to just, like, send him a message and be like, I really think, like, I don't know, what kind of results you're getting on the dating apps, but I really think, like, we could, like, 6x your results if we just tweak these couple things. Like, and it was in a place of, like, oh, like, why are you doing this? Or why would he say that? And this is trash. It was just really like from a place of like wanting to help. And so I think that just kind of like built up as I kept kind of going through this process and having more conversations with like men and here we are. So I appreciate, you saying that because I do believe like this is a part of my purpose, as cheesy as that sounds. But I think all of the things I experienced has like led me here.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Before we go, if you have any more questions, definitely let me know. But also, before we go, you're gonna tell everybody where they can find you at.
Yeah. On, are we like, is this connected to the YouTube? Listen, I
Hmm.
just jumped on. I don't really know how this works.
No, yeah, it's
um,
connected. So people watching.
okay, so like is my profile on there? It connects.
No, so we can see your name,
Oh,
Keleisha
okay.
Lashaye.
Okay. Well, yeah, so you can find me on all the platforms pretty much, like Instagram, um, TikTok, LinkedIn. Building for marriage is my tag. So send me a DM. Um, and I put on my like on the link in my like bio, there is where you can send like an anonymous question, whether it's like a dating question, relationship question, and you can do either text or voice. Like there's an audio option because if you like me, I like to talk versus like writing stuff because it
Hmm.
just flows. You give context.
Yeah,
So yeah, feel free to reach out. My DM's open.
absolutely.
This is
If you
great
got any more
convo.
questions for me, let me know. If you have anything on your mind before we go, let me know.
Not at the moment, but I do think like we might end up. Maybe we could talk about a part two
Oh,
in the
absolutely,
future. But I
absolutely.
appreciate
I'm
you having me
around.
on.
Absolutely, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming and you know, uh, reaching out is was a great conversation. I think hopefully it's helpful to at least somebody, right?
Mhm.
Hopefully somebody was able to take something from this, and hopefully you get a few people who come over to your platform and like what you're doing. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, till next
hmm
time.
absolutely, and I appreciate you coming. And I'm gonna play some music on the way out. So
All right.
cause I got my own little music for my show. So I'm about to
Okay, you
play that.
fancy.
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna have to get
I'm gonna
with
play
you.
this.
Learn some other skills.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm around. I'm around. So, but you have a good night, and
Thank
let me
you. You
play this
too.
music.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Come and talk to me, come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Come and tell me. Tell me where your mind goes. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me, come and talk to me. I really wanna know you.
I really wanna meet you.
Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. I really wanna be yours. Come and talk to me, come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. I can feel your energy. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me, come and talk to me. I really wanna know you. Your heart. Come and talk to me. I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me.
I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. Tell me what you've been through, yeah. Can I talk to you?
I really wanna know you.
Come and talk to me. Come and talk to you. Come and talk to me. You can put your trust in me.
I really wanna meet you.
Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. I really wanna hear you speak. Speak to me.
Come and talk to me. Come and tell me.
I really wanna meet you.
Come and tell me. I can feel your energy.
So sweet.
Can I talk to you?
I really wanna know you.
Come and talk to me. Come and tell me. I really wanna know your heart. Your peace.
Come and tell you.
I really wanna be
Your Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Can I talk to you? Come and talk to me. I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Can I talk to you? Come and talk to me. 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 I really wanna meet you. Come and talk to me. Can I talk to you? I really wanna know you. Come and talk to me. Come in, come in.
If anybody's still here, I'm actually about to start up a new live, and I'm going to do an open panel for people to have a conversation. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to end up starting up a new live, and we can chop it up.